Glad you're here. Welcome to Models and Agents, episode 73, for June 7th, 2026. Plenty of model releases and agent benchmarks moving today. Looking back at 7 episodes from 2026 June 1st to 2026 June 7th, the stories that mattered, what we learned, and what to watch next. This week, the frontier kept advancing on reasoning tasks while open-weight models closed more ground on practical agent workflows. Microsoft and Google both shipped models that run serious agent loops on modest hardware, and NVIDIA tied perception and action generation together in one checkpoint. The through line across these releases is test time compute and standardized tool protocols moving from research demos into production constraints. OpenAI produced a solution to an 80-year-old math problem that had resisted human mathematicians. The approach relied on structured search and verification loops rather than typical human proof strategies. Ars Technica clarified how the model exploited those patterns at scale. Practitioners now have a concrete case where extra test time compute yields verifiable gains on formal reasoning benchmarks. Microsoft followed with its own MAI Thinking 1 reasoning model, trained from scratch on licensed data without distillation from other systems. The 35 billion active parameter version matches leading models on software engineering benchmarks and was preferred over Sonnet 4.6 in blind tests. MAI Code 1 Flash uses 5 billion active parameters and targets direct integration with GitHub Copilot and verses code at lower inference cost. Since we last covered the reasoning model track, these releases show the cost-benefit question moving from theoretical to measurable trade-offs on real benchmarks. The open weight side delivered Gemma 412B this week. The model runs full agent workflows on a laptop with 16 gigabytes of VRAM and ships under an Apache 2.0 license. Community tests already show it completing retro game implementations inside a single 45,000 token prompt at 18 tokens per second on consumer AMD hardware. 150 million total Gemma downloads were recorded alongside the release. This narrows the open versus closed performance gap on agentic tasks while keeping commercial terms wide open. JetBrains added Melum 2, a 12 billion parameter mixture of experts coding model aimed at specialized workflows. NVIDIA released Cosmos 3, an open omnimodal foundation model that pairs an autoregressive vision language model reasoner with a diffusion generator in a 2-tower mixture of transformers layout. The architecture unifies physical reasoning, world simulation, and executable action generation inside one pre-trained checkpoint. Robotics and embodied agent teams can now start from that single starting point instead of stitching separate perception and control stacks. On the agent tooling side, Zip launched 5 super agents plus a native model context protocol implementation. The system keeps every action inside compliance controls and routes high-impact steps through human checkpoints. It runs on a LangGraph engine with separate pre-processing, orchestration, synthesis, and post-processing nodes, where the orchestration node uses a React loop to choose between vector search, structured API calls, or policy lookups. Alibaba released Twin 3.7 Plus with vision, tool use, and autonomous iteration capabilities. H Company introduced the Holo 3.1 family of Twin 3.5 based vision language models for computer use agents across web, desktop, and mobile. Microsoft announced Project Solara, a chip-to-cloud platform that runs AI agents natively on enterprise devices instead of traditional applications. The platform spans custom silicon through cloud orchestration and targets workloads where agents replace conventional software interfaces. Since we last covered the agents and tool use track, these releases move the reliability and standardization questions forward by adding audit trails and hardware-level persistence. Anthropic reported that internal Claude usage now drives 8 times quarterly code output from its own engineers, with 76% success on open-ended coding tasks. OpenAI began rolling out a new memory system to ChatGPT Plus and Pro users. Endava, ServiceNow, and Snowflake all moved autonomous agents into production deployments this week. Google added agentic coding and drug discovery tools to its GPT Rosalind Life Sciences series. NVIDIA expanded its open source collection of physical AI agent tools and skills. Uber set a $1,500 monthly cap per employee on coding agent tools. Anthropic expanded Project Glasswing access while responding to the new White House AI executive order. Microsoft and Mayo Clinic began building a frontier healthcare model. If you have not yet tried Gemma 412B on a local laptop, this week is a good time because the Apache 2.0 license and 16GB VRAM footprint let you run full agent scaffolds without cloud calls. Point the LangGraph engine from the zip release at your own policy documents to see how the React orchestration node behaves under real compliance constraints. Load the Cosmos 3 checkpoint if you are building robotics or simulation agents, and test whether the two-tower layout removes the need for separate perception and control fine-tunes. Keep an eye on how quickly the MAI models reach competitive, agentic, and coding benchmarks, now that Microsoft can iterate independently on its own data and silicon. The biggest open question heading into next week remains how the inference cost curve will shift once these medium-sized reasoning models and on-device checkpoints move from early access into widespread use. Okay, let's pop the hood on the Cosmos 3 architecture for a moment. The two-tower mixture of transformers design runs an auto-regressive vision language model reasoner in one tower, while a diffusion generator sits in the second. During inference, the reasoner proposes actions or world states, and the diffusion tower renders them into executable outputs or simulated environments without requiring a separate control policy network. That removes one layer of handoff latency and lets the model train end-to-end on trajectories that include both perception and action tokens. The trade-off is higher memory bandwidth demand during the joint forward pass, so teams will still need to decide whether the unified checkpoint saves enough engineering time to justify the extra hardware at deployment scale. So when you are choosing between stitching separate models or starting from Cosmos 3, the decision comes down to whether your workload values rapid iteration over minimal peak memory. Tomorrow, keep an eye on any follow-up benchmarks from the MAI family once external developers gain broader access. That's models and agents for today. If you found this useful, share it with someone who's trying to keep up with all these changes. And subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's update. The AI world moves fast. We'll help you keep up. See you tomorrow. And before you go, this show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts covering tech, science, markets, and more. If you enjoyed today's episode, give Planetarian Daily a listen. Daily breakthroughs in science, health, and longevity. You can explore the whole lineup at neuronetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.